Welcome to Gone Legends. Today, we remember extraordinary Hollywood stars, artists who entertained, inspired, and shaped the golden legacy of film and television. Though their time has passed, their stories continue to remind us what true artistry means. If you love honoring the icons who made Hollywood shine, don't forget to subscribe to Gone Legends and join us in keeping their memories alive.
Emmy-winning actress Kirstie Alley passed away in December 2022 at the age of 71. Her wit and charm made her a household name on Cheers and Veronica's Closet. On screen, she was fearless. Off-screen, she was honest, funny, and strong. Kirstie brought humor and heart to everything she touched, reminding fans that authenticity is the truest form of beauty. Emmy-winning actress Kirstie Alley passed away in December 2022 at the age of 71. Her passing marked the end of an era, and the loss of a woman whose presence on and off screen left an unforgettable mark on Hollywood and in the hearts of millions around the world. Kirstie first captured audiences' attention in the 1980s, when she joined the iconic sitcom Cheers as Rebecca Howe. Her quick wit, expressive humor, and undeniable charm made her character an instant favorite. Through laughter and vulnerability, she breathed life into Rebecca, turning what could have been just another sitcom role into one of television's most beloved characters. Her performance earned her an Emmy Award, a Golden Globe, and a place among the greatest comedic actresses of her generation. In the late 1990s, Kirstie continued her success with Veronica's Closet, starring as Veronica Chase, a glamorous and strong-willed businesswoman navigating love, friendship, and fame. Once again, Kirstie's ability to blend humor with heart made her shine, reminding audiences that true comedy comes from truth and humanity. Beyond her television success, Kirstie's film career was equally memorable. From Look Who's Talking alongside John Travolta, to Drop Dead Gorgeous, It Takes Two, and so many others, she brought warmth, humor, and depth to every role. No matter the project, she had a rare ability to make audiences laugh one moment and touch their hearts the next. But perhaps what made Kirstie Alley truly special was not just her talent, but her authenticity. Off-screen, she was fearless, unafraid to speak her mind, to share her truth, and to live life on her own terms. She was known for her honesty, her humor, and her strength, qualities that endeared her to fans who saw in her a reflection of real humanity. Those who knew her often spoke of her warmth, her generosity, and her infectious laugh, a laugh that could fill a room and lift even the heaviest of spirits. She faced life's challenges with grace and courage, showing the world that vulnerability and resilience can exist side by side. Through her work, Kirstie taught us that beauty isn't found in perfection, it's found in being real. In every smile, every joke, and every heartfelt moment she shared with the world, she reminded us that authenticity is the truest form of beauty. Kirstie Alley brought humor, heart, and humanity to everything she touched. She made us laugh, she made us feel, and she made us remember the power of simply being ourselves. And though she may be gone, her legacy lives on. In her unforgettable performances, in the laughter she gave to millions, and in the hearts of those who will never forget her. Kirstie Alley, a legend, a light, and a spirit who will forever shine in the story of Hollywood. Canadian-born actor Donald Sutherland passed away in June 2024 at the age of 88. His loss marked the end of one of the most remarkable careers in film history, a career that spanned more than 6 decades and more than 150 films. Born on July 17, 1935, in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, Sutherland began as a radio announcer before studying acting in London. His journey to stardom wasn't immediate. It was built over years of dedication, subtlety, and unshakable confidence in his craft. From the very beginning, he stood out for his intelligence, intensity, and the quiet power behind his performances. Sutherland first rose to international fame with his role as the rebellious surgeon Hawkeye Pierce in the 1970 film M*A*S*S*H. The performance captured his signature blend of wit and depth, making him a voice for a generation questioning authority and war. He followed it with the haunting Don't Look Now, where his nuanced portrayal of grief and love proved he was far more than a leading man, he was an artist unafraid of emotional truth. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Sutherland's range seemed limitless. In Clute, Ordinary People, An Invasion of the Body Snatchers, he showed the full spectrum of human emotion, from warmth to alienation, from calm to quiet madness. He became known as the kind of actor who disappeared into every role, serving the story rather than seeking the spotlight. In later years, a new generation discovered him through the Hunger Games series, where his chilling performance as President Snow introduced his talent to millions of younger fans. Even then, his eyes held the same intelligence and controlled power that had defined his work for decades. What made Donald Sutherland so unique was his willingness to take risks. He didn't chase fame, he chased truth. Whether in dramas, thrillers, comedies, or political films, he brought complexity and humanity to every character he played. His artistry wasn't loud, it was deliberate, thoughtful, and deeply felt. Sutherland's passing leaves a tremendous void in the world of cinema. Yet his legacy lives on, not just in his vast body of work, but in the generations of actors who followed his example of integrity and authenticity. Donald Sutherland will forever be remembered as one of the great storytellers of our time, a man who transformed every role into something unforgettable, and who reminded us that true acting isn't about fame, but truth. Comedian and actor Paul Reubens, best known as the beloved Pee Wee Herman, passed away in July 2023 after a private, 6-year battle with cancer. He was 70 years old. His passing marked the loss of one of the most original and imaginative entertainers of the modern era. Paul Reubens created a character unlike any other, the quirky, childlike, bow-tied Pee Wee Herman, who captured hearts and became a cultural icon of the 1980s and beyond. Through his boundless creativity, he built a world filled with color, laughter, and innocence. His performances in Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Pee-wee's Playhouse didn't just entertain children, they delighted audiences of all ages, reminding everyone that it's okay to be different, to dream, and to laugh at life's absurdities. Reubens' humor was whimsical yet layered, playful yet intelligent. Beneath Pee-wee's wide-eyed innocence was a performer with incredible precision, a man who understood that true comedy comes from heart and honesty. His work influenced generations of comedians, filmmakers, and dreamers, leaving a mark that went far beyond the screen. Away from his signature role, Paul Reubens proved himself a gifted character actor, appearing in films like Batman Returns, Mystery Men, and Blow. He showed a remarkable ability to transform, adapting his humor to both comedic and dramatic roles while maintaining his unique charm. Behind the laughter stood a deeply private man who fought illness quietly and with dignity. He chose to bring joy to others even as he struggled in silence, a true testament to his strength of spirit. Paul Reubens reminded the world that imagination has no age, and that playfulness isn't something we should outgrow, it's something we should cherish. His legacy continues every time someone laughs without shame, dreams without limits, and dares to be their authentic self. Paul Reubens may be gone, but Pee Wee Herman, and the laughter he brought, will live forever. Academy Award-winning actress Louise Fletcher passed away in September 2022 at the age of 88. Her passing marked the loss of one of cinema's most quietly powerful and unforgettable talents, a woman whose strength, subtlety, and grace forever changed the landscape of film. Louise Fletcher made history with her legendary portrayal of Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a role that remains one of the most chilling and masterful performances ever captured on screen. With her calm voice, composed expression, and icy control, she brought to life a character who embodied authority at its most oppressive, a symbol of power, manipulation, and emotional restraint. Her performance was not loud, not cruel in the obvious sense, but terrifying in its stillness. She showed the world that evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers. And through that quiet power, she created a villain unlike any other, one that continues to haunt audiences nearly 50 years later. For her remarkable work, Louise Fletcher won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1976, along with the BAFTA and Golden Globe, a rare and extraordinary achievement. When she accepted her Oscar, she delivered one of the most touching moments in Academy history, using sign language to thank her deaf parents, saying, "I want to thank you for teaching me to dream." It was a moment of pure humanity, a glimpse into the warmth and sincerity that existed behind the steely facade of her most famous character. But beyond Nurse Ratched, Louise Fletcher's career was filled with depth and courage. She appeared in films like Brainstorm, Flowers in the Attic, Cruel Intentions, and Firestarter, as well as acclaimed television roles in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Picket Fences, and Joan of Arcadia. Across decades of work, she refused to be confined to one role or one image, always seeking truth and complexity in every character she portrayed. Off-screen, Fletcher was known for her quiet determination and her deep empathy. She faced personal and professional challenges with resilience, never losing her integrity or her love for storytelling. She was an actress who believed in the emotional power of restraint, that less could often reveal more, and through that belief, she left behind performances that feel timeless. Louise Fletcher's legacy is one of courage, the courage to explore the darker sides of human nature and to portray them with honesty rather than judgment. She showed us that even in stillness, there can be strength. Even in silence, there can be truth. Through her unforgettable work, she reminded the world that film can do more than entertain. It can make us think, it can make us feel, and it can hold a mirror to our own humanity. Louise Fletcher will forever be remembered not just as Nurse Ratched, but as a true artist, one who transformed fear into understanding and performance into poetry. Her presence may be gone, but her legacy, her power, her courage, and her brilliance will echo through cinema forever. Ray Liotta was one of Hollywood's most unforgettable presences, an actor whose intensity, charisma, and raw emotion brought every character to life. Born on December 18, 1954, in Newark, New Jersey, Liotta grew up with a love for movies but never imagined he'd one day become one of the defining faces of modern cinema. He first captured audiences' attention in the 1980s with his breakthrough performance in Something Wild, where he played a charming yet dangerous ex-con. But it was in 1990, as Henry Hill in Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas, that Ray Liotta became a Hollywood legend. His portrayal of the ambitious mobster, torn between loyalty and chaos, remains one of the most iconic performances in film history. The movie's combination of style, swagger, and grit was anchored by Liotta's magnetic realism, a performance that critics and fans still call one of the greatest in gangster cinema. Liotta had a rare gift, the ability to play menacing, morally complex characters while showing the humanity behind their flaws. Whether he was the haunted ghostly figure in Field of Dreams, the tough yet vulnerable cop in Copland, or the conflicted husband in Marriage Story, his performances always carried a deep emotional truth. He didn't just act, he inhabited his roles, giving every line, every look, and every silence meaning. Throughout his career, Ray Liotta appeared in over 100 films and television shows. He lent his unmistakable voice to the hit video game Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, bringing another generation of fans into his orbit. Despite being known for his tough guy roles, those who knew him off-screen described him as kind, humble, and deeply dedicated to his craft. On May 26, 2022, while filming a new project in the Dominican Republic, Ray Liotta passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 67 years old. His sudden death shocked fans and the film community alike, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable performances and a career defined by passion and authenticity. Ray Liotta will forever be remembered as the man who made tough guys human, fierce yet full of heart. His performances remind us that strength and vulnerability often live side by side, and that true acting comes from the soul. Though his voice has gone silent, his spirit still echoes through every scene he ever filmed, a lasting tribute to a man who lived and breathed the art of storytelling. Treat Williams, a beloved actor of stage, film, and television, passed away tragically in June 2023 at the age of 71, following a motorcycle accident near his Vermont home. His sudden passing left Hollywood, and fans around the world, mourning a man whose career was defined by both talent and grace. Born on December 1, 1951, in Rowayton, Connecticut, Treat Williams grew up with a love for storytelling. He studied theater at Franklin and Marshall College and began his professional journey on Broadway before making his breakthrough in film. His charm, intelligence, and deep emotional range made him one of the most respected and dependable actors of his generation. He first captured international attention with his powerful performance in Hair, 1979, the film adaptation of the iconic musical that defined a generation. Williams' portrayal of George Berger, a free-spirited yet deeply human character, showcased his ability to balance charisma with authenticity. The role earned him a Golden Globe nomination and launched him into stardom. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Treat Williams continued to impress audiences with memorable performances in films like Prince of the City, directed by Sidney Lumet, where he played a conflicted New York detective caught between justice and corruption. Critics praised his raw intensity, and the performance earned him another Golden Globe nomination, solidifying his reputation as an actor of depth and conviction. But it wasn't only in cinema where Williams shone. On television, he became a household name through his beloved role as Dr. Andy Brown in the hit WB series Everwood, 2002 to 2006. As a widowed father rebuilding his life with his children in a small town, Williams brought warmth, strength, and vulnerability to the screen. His portrayal resonated deeply with viewers, earning him a new generation of fans who admired his sincerity and heart. Over a career that spanned 5 decades, Treat Williams worked in more than 130 film and television projects, including Once Upon a Time in America, The Late Shift, and 127 Hours. He was also a frequent presence on Broadway, where he remained passionate about live performance. Those who knew him personally describe Williams as a man of humility, integrity, and generosity, someone who approached his craft with gratitude and never lost sight of what truly mattered, the joy of storytelling. He was known for treating everyone on set with kindness, from co-stars to crew members, making lasting friendships throughout his career. Fans remember him not only for his talent, but for the compassion he carried both on and off the screen. Whether playing a cop, a father, or a dreamer, Treat Williams brought honesty and humanity to every role. His passing was a devastating loss for Hollywood, but his legacy, built on decades of heartfelt performances, continues to shine brightly. Through his work, Treat Williams reminded us that acting is not about fame or perfection, but about truth. He will forever be remembered as an actor of extraordinary depth and a man of extraordinary heart. Academy Award-winning actor William Hurt passed away in March 2022 at the age of 71. His passing marked the loss of one of the most intelligent, introspective, and quietly powerful performers of his generation. Throughout his distinguished career, William Hurt became known for roles that demanded more than charisma. They demanded depth, honesty, and a deep understanding of the human soul. He wasn't just an actor who played characters. He became them. Every gesture, every pause, every silence he delivered carried meaning, a reflection of his profound respect for the art of storytelling. William first captivated audiences in the 1980s, when his breakout performance in Kiss of the Spider Woman earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor. In that role, he transformed vulnerability into strength, portraying a man whose humanity shone through the darkest circumstances. It was a performance of rare sensitivity and courage, and it established him as one of Hollywood's most gifted and fearless talents. He continued to impress with films like Broadcast News, where he played a charming yet conflicted news anchor torn between ambition and integrity. His work in that film earned him another Oscar nomination, and it became one of his most iconic roles, a blend of humor, self-doubt, and emotional truth that few actors could capture so naturally. In A History of Violence, Hurt returned to the screen with quiet menace and magnetic intensity. Even in limited screen time, he commanded attention, reminding audiences of his ability to fill every frame, to make silence louder than words, and presence more powerful than dialogue. Over the decades, William Hurt built a reputation as an actor who didn't chase fame, he chased meaning. He approached every role as a student of life, exploring what it means to be human in all its complexity, love, guilt, passion, pain, and redemption. His performances were never loud or exaggerated. Instead, they drew you in, inviting you to listen, to think, to feel. Those who worked with him often described him as deeply thoughtful, a man of quiet intelligence and philosophical curiosity. He valued truth above all else, in art, in words, and in life. And that truth shone through in every look, every whisper, every pause between lines. William Hurt had a rare gift. The gift of silence. He could say more with a glance than most actors could with an entire monologue. It was that ability, to convey so much with so little, that made him one of cinema's most unforgettable presences. Throughout his long and celebrated career, he earned 4 Academy Award nominations, starred in countless acclaimed films, and inspired generations of actors who admired his discipline and devotion to the craft. But beyond the awards and accolades, what truly defined William Hurt was his thoughtfulness, his integrity, and his unwavering pursuit of truth, both on screen and in life. He will be remembered as an artist who challenged audiences to think deeply, to feel fully, and to look inward. An actor who didn't just perform, he revealed the human condition. William Hurt's legacy lives on in every film he made, in every character he brought to life, and in every quiet moment that spoke louder than words ever could. A master of subtlety, a poet of emotion, and a man whose art will forever remind us of the beauty found in honesty and silence. His name is Randy Travis, born May 4, 1959, in Marshville, North Carolina. A name that would one day echo through every corner of country music. Randy Travis is not just a country singer, he is a storyteller, a voice of faith, and a man whose songs captured the heart of America. His deep, rich baritone became one of the most recognizable sounds in country history, carrying messages of love, redemption, and resilience. In the 1980s, when country music was drifting toward pop and glossy production, Randy Travis stepped onto the stage like a breath of fresh air. He didn't chase trends. He brought the music back to its roots, back to the days of sincerity, steel guitars, and the pure honesty of storytelling. Songs like On the Other Hand, Forever and Ever, Amen, and 3 Wooden Crosses weren't just chart toppers, they were lifelines. They spoke to real people about real life. His music felt like home, the sound of open roads, small towns, church pews, and hearts that had seen both joy and pain. But behind the velvet voice was a man who had walked through storms, poverty, addiction, heartbreak, and tragedy. Randy Travis's story is not one of easy fame. It's one of survival, redemption, and grace. From a troubled boy in North Carolina to a world-renowned icon who would later lose and fight to reclaim his voice, his journey stands as one of the most powerful testaments to H. Randy Travis was born Randy Bruce Trawick on May 4, 1959, in the tiny town of Marshville, North Carolina, a place where the air smelled of farmland, the nights were long and quiet, and dreams of fame felt like a world away. He was the second of 6 children, raised in a working-class family where love was mixed with hardship. His father, Harold Trawick, was a construction worker by trade but a musician at heart, a man who loved old country legends like Hank Williams and Lefty Frizzell. He'd sit by the radio, a cigarette burning slowly in one hand, tapping his boot to the rhythm of honky-tonk songs that told of heartbreak, faith, and life's endless struggles. His mother, Bobby, worked hard to keep the family together. She was gentle, nurturing, and devoted, often holding the home steady through her husband's temper and the family's financial struggles. Growing up in the Trawick home wasn't easy. Randy's father had a dream of becoming a country singer himself, but it never came true. That unfulfilled dream, mixed with alcohol and frustration, often turned into anger. And that anger spilled into the home. Yet, even in those difficult moments, there was something else in that house: music. It was everywhere. The Trawick family spent their evenings gathered around, listening to records or picking guitars, and before long, Harold realized that his young son had a gift. Randy could sing, not like a child, but like a man who had already lived a lifetime. His voice had depth, soul, and an aching sincerity that felt older than his years. By the time he was 10 years old, Randy was singing at local church gatherings and talent shows, alongside his brother Ricky. Their father became their first manager, pushing them to perform wherever they could. He built them a stage in the family garage and started calling them the Trawick Brothers. But success didn't come easily. Randy was a restless kid, a dreamer who didn't fit neatly into the mold of small-town life. He clashed with authority, got into fights, and ran with the wrong crowd. By his teenage years, he was arrested multiple times, for car theft, breaking and entering, and other reckless acts that came from anger and confusion more than true malice. At one point, a judge looked at the young man standing before him, tall, raw-boned, with sadness in his eyes, and told him he'd either have to straighten up or spend years in prison. It was a turning point, a moment that could have ended his story before it even began. But fate had other plans. Randy's music, and one person's faith in him, would change everything. After one of his arrests, a club owner named Elizabeth "Lib" Hatcher took notice of the young man's talent. She ran a small nightclub in Charlotte called Country City, USA. Lib saw something in Randy that no one else did, a spark of greatness buried beneath the trouble. She decided to take him under her wing, giving him a job at her club and helping him focus on his music. It wasn't just a career opportunity, it was a lifeline. Under Lib's guidance, Randy began performing regularly, singing covers of Merle Haggard, George Jones, and Elvis Presley, all while developing his own voice, his own identity. He dropped the Treywick and became Randy Travis, a name that would soon echo across the world. But those early years were not glamorous. He struggled to pay bills, sometimes living in his car, performing for small crowds in smoky bars, and holding on to hope when there seemed to be none. Still, even then, people who heard him knew. There was something special in that voice. Something pure. Something timeless. Randy Travis didn't just sing songs, he lived them. Every note carried a piece of his soul, shaped by poverty, pain, and perseverance. And little by little, that soul began to shine. By the early 1980s, after years of rejection and hard work, Randy and Lib, who had become his manager and eventually his life partner, moved to Nashville. The city of dreams. The home of country music. At first, Nashville didn't know what to do with him. Record labels said his sound was too traditional, too old-fashioned. But Randy refused to change who he was. He sang with conviction, the way country was meant to sound, simple, honest, and true. And it was that conviction that would soon change everything. Because in 1986, the world was about to meet Randy Travis, not as a struggling young singer, but as the man who would resurrect an entire genre. Human strength in the history of country music. Nashville can be a hard place for dreamers. It's a city built on broken hearts and songs that never get sung. But when Randy Travis walked through its doors in the early 1980s, he carried something the industry hadn't heard in years: truth. He didn't have the glitz, the showbiz sparkle, or the polished countrypop sound that was dominating the charts. What he had was a voice, deep, steady, and honest. A voice that could quiet a room and make you believe every word. In a time when country music was drifting towards slick production and pop influence, Randy was a throwback to the legends, to Merle Haggard, George Jones, and Hank Williams. He didn't sing to impress. He sang to heal. But Nashville didn't embrace him right away. 4 years, he performed in small clubs, working day jobs, and waiting for that one shot. His demo tapes were rejected again and again. Record labels told him traditional country was dead. They were wrong. In 1985, after nearly a decade of rejection, Randy was finally signed to Warner Brothers Records. It was a gamble. No one knew if America would still listen to a country singer who sounded like the old days. But in 1986, that gamble paid off. Randy Travis released his debut album, Storms of Life. It didn't just sell. It exploded. The album went multi-platinum, selling over 4 million copies, a staggering number for traditional country music at the time. It was more than a record, it was a revival. Songs like On the Other Hand and Dig Gin Up Bones captured something people had been missing: sincerity. Randy's music was like an open letter from the heartland. It reminded people of home, of family, of faith. He was not singing at the audience. He was singing for them. The critics called it a rebirth of real country. Fans called it a blessing. And Randy Travis, the boy who once stood before a judge for breaking the law, now stood before sold-out crowds, holding the microphone like a prayer. Then came 1987, the year Randy's name became legend. That year, he released Forever and Ever, Amen. A love song so pure and timeless that it didn't just top the charts, it captured hearts across generations. The song earned Randy his first Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance, and it became his signature piece. It was more than just a romantic tune. It was a promise, one that spoke to lifelong devotion, something real in a world that often felt temporary. When Randy sang that chorus, multiple musical notes, I'm gonna love you forever and ever, multiple musical notes. It wasn't just a lyric. It was a vow, sung from a place of faith and sincerity that only he could deliver. From that point forward, Randy Travis wasn't just a singer. He was the soul of country music. Randy's success marked the start of a movement known as the New Traditionalists. He, along with artists like George Strait, Reba McEntire, and Alan Jackson, brought country back to its storytelling roots. While others chased radio-friendly hits, Randy reminded the world what made the genre powerful in the first place: emotion, faith, and truth. His albums Always and Forever, Old 8x10, and No Holding Back continued his streak of success, each one filled with songs that touched hearts and souls alike. He wasn't just a star, he was a standard-bearer for authenticity. He performed at the Grand Ole Opry, joined its family, and filled arenas across the country. His concerts weren't just shows, they were spiritual experiences. Fans who grew up with Johnny Cash and Loretta Lynn now brought their children to see Randy Travis. He united generations under one sound, the sound of home. Despite the fame, Randy never lost his humility. He spoke softly, often deflecting praise with a modest smile. He once said, "I never wanted to be a star. I just wanted to sing songs that mean something." And that's exactly what he did. By the late 1980s, he had sold millions of records, topped charts around the world, and won multiple Grammy Awards, CMA Awards, and ACM Awards. But behind the spotlight, Randy remained grounded, the same country boy from Marshville who found redemption through music. Still, life had more tests waiting for him, storms that would once again challenge his strength and faith. By the 1990s, Randy Travis had become a household name. His songs played on every radio, his albums sold by the millions, and his face was recognized everywhere from Nashville to New York. But Randy's fame wasn't the flashy kind. He was known for humility, the kind of quiet strength that country fans loved. He stayed true to who he was, a man of faith, hard work, and simplicity. Still, behind the fame, Randy's life was far more complicated than the calm he projected. The early 1990s were a golden age for Randy. He released a string of hit albums: No Holding Back, Heroes and Friends, High Lonesome, and This Is Me. His songs continued to climb the charts, and his voice only grew richer with time. He crossed into acting, appearing in television and films such as Black Dog, The Rainmaker, and Touched by an Angel, proving he was more than just a singer, he was a storyteller in every form. And then, in 1991, he took another leap of faith. He began recording gospel music. It was a natural fit for a man whose voice carried the spirit of Sunday mornings and small-town chapels. His gospel albums, including Inspirational Journey and Glory Train, connected deeply with audiences who saw in Randy not just a performer, but a believer. In 2003, his song 3 Wooden Crosses became one of the most emotional and meaningful hits of his career. It told the story of grace, of loss, forgiveness, and divine mercy. The song won Song of the Year at the Country Music Association Awards, and many called it a sermon set to music. It was proof that Randy Travis had not only touched hearts but healed them. But while his career continued to soar, his personal life began to fracture. Randy's longtime manager and wife, Elizabeth "Lib" Hatcher, had been by his side from the very beginning. She discovered him, managed his career, believed in him when no one else did, and eventually married him in 1991. For nearly 2 decades, they were a team, building not just a career, but a legacy. But as the years went on, the pressures of fame and differences in vision began to pull them apart. By 2010, after 19 years of marriage and 30 years of partnership, the two divorced. For Randy, it was a devastating blow. He lost not only his wife but also the person who had guided his professional life from the start. Friends later said the divorce shook him to his core. He became withdrawn, quiet, and uncertain of what came next. It was a painful chapter, the kind that doesn't play out on stage or in song. But even through heartbreak, Randy's faith never completely disappeared. After his divorce, Randy faced a series of public and private struggles. He battled personal demons, legal troubles, and the scrutiny of fame. There were arrests and headlines that painted a man losing his way. For fans who had grown up seeing him as the voice of calm and faith, it was hard to watch. But those closest to Randy saw the pain behind the mistakes, the loneliness of a man who had lost the pillars of his life and was searching for peace. In those years, Randy was not the superstar the world saw. He was a man wrestling with himself, trying to find the light again. And just when it seemed things couldn't get darker, tragedy struck in a way no one could have imagined. In July 2013, Randy Travis was hospitalized in Texas for viral cardiomyopathy, a severe heart condition. Complications followed, leading to a massive stroke that left him fighting for his life. Doctors gave him little chance of survival. 4 days, the world waited. When he finally awoke, Randy's body had changed. His right side was paralyzed, his speech severely limited, and his singing voice silenced. It was a cruel twist of fate for a man whose entire being had been built around his voice, the voice that had once filled arenas, now quieted to a whisper. Yet even then, in that hospital room, something in Randy refused to give up. His wife Mary Davis, who had stood beside him since his health battle began, became his rock, guiding his recovery, protecting his dignity, and helping him rediscover purpose in a new kind of life. Randy's road to recovery was long and painful. He had to relearn basic skills, how to walk, how to talk, how to hold a guitar again. But step by step, he fought his way back. And when the world thought it would never hear that voice again, Randy proved them wrong. In 2016, at his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame, Randy Travis, still weak, still recovering, took the stage. The audience was filled with country music's biggest names. When Randy stepped to the microphone, the room fell silent. And then, slowly, he began to sing. Multiple musical notes, amazing grace, how sweet the sound, multiple musical notes. It was soft, trembling, imperfect, but it was the sound of a miracle. Every note was filled with faith, pain, and gratitude. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Artists like Garth Brooks and Carrie Underwood were visibly moved to tears. That moment wasn't just a performance, it was a resurrection. Randy Travis had lost nearly everything, but through sheer faith and love, he had found his way back to what mattered most. When you strip away the fame, the awards, and the lights, what remains of a man like Randy Travis? For Randy, what remains is faith. Faith that carried him through childhood struggle. Faith that guided him through fame and heartbreak. And faith that held him together when his body broke, but his spirit refused to. Randy Travis's voice may have quieted, but his songs still echo through every corner of America. Forever and Ever, Amen still plays at weddings, decades after it was first recorded, a promise of love that has outlived generations. Three Wooden Crosses still plays in churches and small-town radio stations, reminding listeners of the grace that can rise from tragedy. And He Walked on Water still makes people stop what they are doing, close their eyes, and remember what faith feels like. Every song he sang carried truth, the kind that can't be faked or taught. It came from somewhere deep, somewhere sacred. When Randy sang, he wasn't just performing. He was confessing. He was testifying. That's why his music never fades, because it was never about fame. It was about the soul. Ask any country singer today, and they'll tell you Randy Travis changed everything. Without Randy, there might never have been a George Strait as we know him. There might not have been Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, or Brooks and Dunn in the way we remember them. Randy reminded Nashville what country music truly was: storytelling, simplicity, and sincerity. He brought back the sound of real steel guitars, fiddles, and truth-telling lyrics. He made it cool to sing about faith and small-town life again. New artists, from Josh Turner to Chris Stapleton, often speak of Randy's influence, describing him as the artist who showed them how to be honest in their music. He didn't just make songs. He built a foundation. There's a word that keeps appearing whenever people talk about Randy Travis: redemption. Because his story isn't just about talent. It's about second chances. He fell. He stumbled. He lost everything the world says matters: fame, health, his voice. And yet, through grace, he found peace. His life is a reminder that no one is beyond healing, no one is too far gone, and no storm lasts forever. When people see Randy today, smiling, sitting beside his wife Mary at award shows, or standing quietly during tributes, they don't just see a country legend. They see living proof that faith is stronger than fear. Randy's wife, Mary Davis Travis, became his light in the darkest times. She stood beside him through every surgery, every setback, every therapy session. When he couldn't speak, she spoke for him. When he couldn't sing, she sang with him. And when the world moved on, she reminded him, and all of us, that his story wasn't over. In interviews, Mary has said, Randy's purpose was always bigger than music. His songs brought people closer to God, and his story will bring them closer still. Together, they travel, attend charity events, and advocate for stroke awareness. Randy continues to appear at the Grand Ole Opry, often standing alongside friends and fans who celebrate his presence with standing ovations, not for his voice, but for his courage. Over his lifetime, Randy Travis has been honored with countless awards. 7 Grammy Awards, 10 Academy of Country Music Awards, 10 American Music Awards, and 6 CMA Awards, as well as induction into the Grand Ole Opry and the Country Music Hall of Fame. But when you ask Randy about his greatest achievement, it isn't the gold on his wall. It's his sobriety, his faith, his survival. He once said, "Every day I wake up is another song I thank the Lord for." And that simple statement sums up everything: the man, the message, the music. Today, Randy Travis lives a quieter life, surrounded by faith, family, and love. His physical voice may be limited, but his spiritual voice has never been louder. When fans see him now, they don't hear how he sings, they feel why he sang. His music lives on through millions of records sold, through the artists he inspired, and through every person who's ever been comforted by his songs. Because Randy Travis didn't just sing about faith, he lived it. He didn't just sing about redemption, he proved it. He didn't just talk about grace, he became its embodiment. Randy Travis is more than a country singer. He is a symbol of strength, humility, and redemption. He showed us that no matter how many times life breaks your heart, you can always find your way back through love and faith. He taught us that greatness isn't about fame or perfection, it's about perseverance. And though time may have quieted his voice, his message still echoes loud and clear. Through every storm, through every trial, through every note of grace, Randy Travis remains the voice of the broken, the faithful, and the redeemed. Forever and ever. Amen. Person with praying hands, if you were inspired by this tribute, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Gone Legends to keep celebrating the stars who made history.